Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. Her skin was as white as snow, her lips as red as roses, and her hair as black as ebony. But the evil queen was consumed with envy over Snow White's beauty. She couldn't bear the sight of it. In a previous episode, we saw how the queen ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and bring back her liver and lungs to make a delicious supper for her. But the huntsman couldn't bring himself to kill the innocent princess, so he let her go and instead brought the liver and lungs of a wild boar back to the queen. After that, Snow White ran as far as she could into the forest until she came across a small cottage. It was a little dilapidated, but she was exhausted and needed some rest. So she knocked on the door and said, "Please let me in. Little house, please let me in." And to her surprise, the door opened by itself and she stepped inside. Meanwhile, the 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage were out looking for some food. They had been mining all morning and were very hungry. As they approached their cottage, one of them said, "Beware, my brothers. Someone has been here before us and has eaten up all our porridge." But the others didn't believe him and said, "Don't be such a silly goose. Why would anyone eat all our porridge?" However, when they got closer, they saw that someone had indeed been there and had eaten all their food. Just then, Snow White came out of the bedroom and the dwarfs were completely stunned. They had never seen such a beautiful girl before. She was so lovely that they immediately forgot all about their missing food. They invited her to stay with them and she accepted. Meanwhile, the evil queen was furious when she found out that Snow White was still alive. She had ordered the huntsman to bring her back, dead or alive, and he had failed. So the queen went to her cauldron and started stirring a big pot of hot water. Then she'll cut up some old rags and soak them in the water. Once they were nice and soggy, she took them out and made a tight, tangled mess. Then she put on an old peddler woman's dress, grabbed a basket filled with colorful laces and went to the cottage where Snow White was staying. When she knocked on the door, Snow White opened it and gasped when she saw what a fright the old woman was. But the queen just smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, my dear child. An old woman like me only wants to do good deeds." Then she asked if she could please tie Snow White's dress laces for her, saying that she could do it much faster than Snow White herself. Of course, Snow White hesitated, but the queen insisted and promised to do it quickly. So Snow White agreed, and before she knew it, the queen had laced her dress so tightly that she could hardly breathe. Snow White felt dizzy and weak and collapsed right there on the floor. The evil queen cackled loudly and ran away as fast as she could. The dwarfs came home just in the nick of time and were shocked to see Snow White lying on the floor. One of them cut the lace with his sharp pocket knife, and immediately Snow White woke up. She told them what had happened, and they all agreed that the queen was behind it. Then the dwarfs placed Snow White on a nearby chair and guarded her, while one of them ran to the neighboring village to get some food and help. After some time, Snow White felt much better. She thanked the dwarfs for saving her life, and they all became best friends. But the evil queen wasn't done with Snow White yet. She had 2 more tricks up her sleeve. To find out what they were, stay tuned for the next episode where we will continue the story of Snow White. See you next time. Bye.